You ever get sucked into those language learning apps? You know, the ones that promise fluency, but then you're like, okay, but out to Butte.
Yeah, I feel that.
It's like, where's the roadmap?
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, learning outcomes. Those clear, concrete steps to actually learn something.
Like those mile markers you see on road trips, right?
Exactly. It's not just for school either.
Yeah.
Any skill, anything you're trying to learn.
It's like, remember that cooking class I was talking about? The one that's supposed to teach me Italian cooking?
Oh, yeah?
I walk in all excited, and it's just a jumble. Ingredients everywhere, no clue what I'm doing.
Because there were no clear outcomes.
Exactly. No clear outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's where this Tuskegee University document you shared comes in.
Ah, it's a good one. It's all about making those outcomes measurable.
Measurable outcomes. So break it down for me. Why does that matter? Whether I'm trying to bake a sourdough loaf or finally figure out portrait photography, why are measurable outcomes so important?
Okay, so think about it this way.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have a vague idea of what you want to learn, right?
Right.
You need a way to actually know you've learned it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Whether it's acing a quiz, building a website, whatever it is you want to do.
Okay, I'm hooked. Measurable outcomes. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Why are they so crucial?
It's like those mile markers on a road trip.
Oh, yeah?
They tell you how far you've come, how much further you need to go.
Okay.
Without them, you're just driving in circles, hoping you'll eventually reach your destination.
Makes sense.
You don't want to be lost on a back road somewhere.
Definitely not.
So having those measurable outcomes, that's your GPS that's going to keep you on track.
Okay, it's like having that roadmap that I was talking about.
Exactly.
Now, this is where SMART goals come in, right?
Yes.
They're everywhere these days. But are they really that helpful? I mean, for something as big as learning.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
SMART isn't just a catchy acronym, right?
Right.
Each letter actually represents a checkpoint, a way to ensure that your learning outcomes are truly effective.
Okay, so let's take it from the top.
Yeah.
Break it down for me. How does each letter, how does it help me learn better?
Okay, so let's start with S,
Yeah.
which is specific.
Okay.
This is all about clearly defining what you want to achieve.
Okay.
So saying, learn Spanish, that's a great start, but it's not very specific.
It's a little broad.
Right.
I need some specifics.
So a smarter outcome would be something like, hold a 5-minute conversation in Spanish about my favorite hobbies.
Oh.
So you see how that's a lot more specific.
So it's about the what, not just the why.
Exactly.
All right.
Now the M is for measurable, which we've already touched on a bit.
Right.
But you wouldn't bake a cake without checking if it's done right.
Never.
You need to know if you've successfully achieved your learning outcome.
Yes, you do.
So whether that is acing a quiz or building a website from scratch or giving a presentation without notes, you need to be able to measure it.
To see if you're actually learning and not just, going through the motions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we got S, we got M. Bring me on to A.
A, yes, attainable.
Attainable. Okay.
You want to set outcomes that are actually achievable.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, especially with the time and resources that you have.
Right, like I'm not going to be a master chef after one cooking class.
Exactly.
We're going to find that sweet spot between too easy and this is never going to happen.
Exactly. You want to be challenged but not discouraged.
Okay.
All right, so now we're at R, which stands for relevant.
Relevant. Okay.
So this basically means making sure that your learning outcome actually aligns with your broader goals.
It's like learning what you need, not just what sounds cool.
Exactly. So if you're learning Spanish for an upcoming trip to Argentina,
Right.
mastering the subjunctive mood is probably more relevant than, say, analyzing medieval Spanish literature.
Okay, so it's about focusing on what's going to get you to that big goal,
Yeah,
not just getting lost in all the little details.
exactly.
Okay, so S, A, R. What about T?
Key. Time-bound. This simply means setting a realistic deadline for yourself.
A deadline, oh no.
By when do you want to achieve this outcome? This week, this month, this year?
Okay.
Having that time frame in mind really helps you stay motivated and on track.
I like that. I need that little extra bit of pressure sometimes to make sure I actually do things.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so we've got SMART goals all laid out.
Yes.
It's cool how much goes into those 5 little letters.
Yeah.
But the Tuskegee document, this doesn't stop there.
Right. It doesn't.
There's more to crafting those really strong learning outcomes.
Yes, there is. It goes even deeper and highlights the power of strong action verbs and how they connect to different levels of thinking.
Oh, okay. This sounds interesting.
And this actually ties in perfectly with another crucial element, Bloom's taxonomy.
Bloom's taxonomy.
Have you heard of this before?
I have. But I have to admit, it sounds a little intimidating. Like something out of those textbooks I never really understood.
Yeah, it sounds scarier than it is.
So break it down for me.
Okay, so Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay?
It's basically just a framework for understanding different levels of thinking skills.
Different levels of things.
Yeah, like a ladder.
Okay.
You start with basic knowledge at the bottom,
Mhm.
and then you climb up to higher order thinking like analysis and evaluation.
So instead of just memorizing facts, which I am terrible at, by the way,
Right.
Bloom's helps us move from like knowing the ingredients to actually creating our own recipe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like you wouldn't start a climbing expedition on the most challenging peak,
Right.
you wouldn't tackle complex analysis without first understanding the basic concepts.
Okay. Makes sense.
Bloom's helps you approach learning progressively, mastering each level before moving on to the next.
I like it. Learning how to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do we actually use this in real life? I mean, I'm picturing this ladder in my head, but I need someone to like, show me the ropes.
Yeah, so that's where those action verbs come in.
Oh, okay. The ones from the document.
Yes, exactly. Each level of Bloom's taxonomy has these associated verbs that help you craft those really clear and measurable outcomes.
Oh,
At the lower levels, you have verbs like identify or describe.
okay.
But as you climb that ladder, you see verbs like analyze, evaluate, create.
So verbs that require more from you.
Yeah, more deeper thinking, exactly.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so let's stick with the photography example.
Okay.
A lower level outcome might be something like identify the different parts of a DSLR camera.
Right.
But a higher level outcome might be analyze the composition and lighting techniques used in a professional photograph.
Okay, yeah, that's way more advanced.
All right.
I see where you're going with this.
And the beauty of this is that it reminds you to vary your learning outcomes.
Okay.
You don't want to be stuck at the bottom of that ladder just memorizing facts.
Nobody wants to be at the bottom of the ladder.
Right.
Got to keep climbing.
Exactly. You want to challenge yourself to apply, analyze, and eventually create.
Okay. This is all starting to make sense now. I like it.
Good.
And this actually makes me think about some of the examples in the Tuskegee document.
Oh, yeah,
It has some examples of like weak versus strong learning outcomes.
it does.
Want to put our knowledge to the test.
Let's do it. I love a good test.
All right, so first up we've got students will learn about different project management methodologies.
Okay, learn about.
Yeah, what are your initial thoughts?
That learn about is a little vague.
Yeah,
What does learning about really even mean? How are they going to prove it?
right, it needs to be more active,
Ah,
more specific.
exactly.
Okay, so what about this? Students will understand the advantages and disadvantages of different project management methodologies.
Hmm.
Is that better?
It's getting there, but understand, that's still a little unclear.
How do you measure understanding?
Exactly.
Okay, you're right.
We need something more concrete.
A measurable action word.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, how about this? Students will analyze a case study and recommend a suitable project management methodology, justifying their choice based on the project's specific needs.
Okay, now we're talking.
Is that better?
That is a smart learning outcome.
Yay.
It's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I mean, we could easily add a deadline to that.
We could.
Plus, it pushes them to analyze and apply their knowledge, hitting those top levels of Bloom's taxonomy.
We are killing it today.
Why is this great?
Seriously, though, this has been eye-opening.
I agree.
We've gone from, those vague aspirations to these crystal clear learning outcomes.
That's the goal.
And I feel like I can actually use this, whether it's finally learning that new language on the app or just trying something completely new.
And that's the power of understanding these principles. You start to see learning outcomes not as these scary constraints, but as these empowering guideposts that keep you moving forward.
I like that a lot.
So next time you're learning something new, take a minute to really think about what success looks like and how you'll know when you've achieved it.
Yeah, those are the questions we need to be asking.
That little shift in your thinking can make all the difference.
And that is why learning outcomes are so important.
Absolutely.
This is a great deep dive. Are we doing this again next week?
I'm always up for it.
Awesome. Until next time.